Bitcoin whales jumped to the highest level since January 2021. And I've shown you charts like this before where, you know, the number of new whales that have come in have jumped staggeringly high, if that's a word. Yesterday I showed a chart, number of wallets with over 1,000 Bitcoin jumped up to the moon since the second half of this year. This is pretty similar to that chart. A lot of this is from the ETFs, but also just from new whales. So yes, the supply shock is happening already. And on top of that, the reserves are going down, and it makes a lot of sense. Of course, the reserves are going down because there are a lot of buying from a lot of sources. This is the only cycle that we're going through so far where the reserves of Bitcoin on exchanges and from the miners are going down. All previous cycles, they were going up. This is the only one that's going down. And again, that contributes to the supply shock. A solo miner just mined a block worth 3.3 Bitcoin. So one miner just won the reward of 3.3 Bitcoin worth $222,000. That's amazing. With how many miners there are actively mining and trying to solve that equation, this one won it out. Just one single miner. That's actually kind of crazy if you think about it. So as for our last few charts, I want to show you guys. Hey, you know what? I showed you guys this last night, right? We did go down. We retested last night. Remember, I showed you guys this? This was a retest of us breaking out of this channel. And that is actually, from a TA perspective, really, really good. Okay? Normally, when you break out, you see a retest and then boom, you take off. What you don't want to see is a retest and then you break downwards. That's not actually what happened. We actually hit it on the dot and then we broke out again. That is exactly, from a TA perspective, pretty darn good. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. And of course, what happens when you break out and retest, or when you retest and break out? Well, we saw something similar in 2020 when we broke out of 10,000 and then boom, we went up to 64,000. We retraced all the way back down to 28,000 and then we shot up to $69,000. That was a crazy drop from 64,000 down to 28,000. That was over a 50% drop and then back up to 69,000. Now, a lot of people say that was because of SBF and FTX. They were playing their games. Whatever the case was. But we saw that again last cycle. And again, you know when that pump started? It started in October of last cycle too. It started in October. So we're basically seeing the same thing right now at a much larger scale. Again, for those that are complaining and whining like, oh, Bitcoin's not going up, it's not going anywhere, right? Where is this supply shock? Look at the numbers, okay? Look at the numbers. Can I zoom in here? That's not working. Okay, you guys, I can't zoom in because I can't figure this out. But if you look at the numbers in 2020, when Bitcoin broke out, it was at $10,000. Right now, we're trying to break out at $68,000. There's a big difference there. 10,000 and 68,000. We're roughly 7 times higher than where we were 4 years ago. So people that are complaining that we haven't gone anywhere and Bitcoin has been stuck, you know, we're not at the same playing field, right? Like Bitcoin has been going higher. It has been going a lot higher. So you just have to expand your timeline a little bit. Okay. So after this cycle, I don't know where Bitcoin will be. It's going to be a lot different, especially with a supply shock, with the institutions, with the reserves dropping for the first time in Bitcoin's history. It's going to be very, very different after this cycle. Very different. And we may not have a crypto winter anymore. All these cycles that we go through, we hit a peak and then we go down 80+%. This last cycle, we went down 77%. So it was a little bit less severe, but still, we went down 77% for crypto winter. Are we going to see the same thing this time around after we hit peak? We may not. I know history doesn't repeat, it tends to rhyme, but if you just take a second and think about it, with all these institutions holding their ETFs, and these ETFs are holding all this Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy holding all its Bitcoin, and everyone else in between holding their Bitcoin, are we really going to see the same kind of drop as before? All the previous cycles were led by retail investors with lettuce hands. And we know that lettuce hands tends to dump due to fear, right? Due to FUD. But institutions, yeah, sometimes they fall for FUD too, but they have much stronger hands and they tend to pick up when there is FUD. So I don't know. After 2025, we may get corrections, but in 2026, who knows? Maybe we don't go down 70-something%. Maybe we just go down 30%, 40%, and then we recover right back up. So this cycle could be very, very, very different moving forward, or I should say the next cycle could be very different going forward compared to previous cycles. But first things first, let's see where the remainder of this month takes us, and the remainder of this year takes us, and then let's see where 2025 takes us. We have an entire year left. The most bullish year of this cycle is coming up in 2025. This is not one of those times where like we're heading down, right? Like after 2021, when I was streaming for you guys from 2022 going into 2023, we knew, according to the cycle, those 2 years were going to be bad. But you know what? I was still hopeful. I was telling you guys about what's going to happen, right? About the next cycle. But you know what? Now we don't have to do that. We know 2025 is coming up. It's on the upswing. It's going to be glorious.